So let's do a quick recap of what we did 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we discussed, I'll just get out of my share screen. So 2 weeks ago, we discussed the first perek of Melachim I, and we saw a really pretty amazing movie, really. All we were missing is the music, but we had the music in the back of our minds, where Shlomo Melech is being given the melucha. He didn't speak up, he didn't show that he was interested in it. Instead, everything was being done for him by Natan Hanavi, by his mother, Bathsheba, and by David HaMelech. We saw that Adoniyahu, who is the next person in line to rule over Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, he was the third in line. He was the one who was supposed to be the Melech after Amnon was murdered by Avshalom. Avshalom was killed by Yoav. And now Adoniyahu was trying to take over while David HaMelech, his father, was alive. And when Natan saw that and Bathsheba noticed it, quickly they devised a plan and they were successful. They were successful to the point where Adoniyahu actually thought that he was succeeding. He went out by the Kidron Valley and started doing a whole entire parade. But he didn't succeed because of the swiftness of David HaMelech. And we saw the contrast between how the chapter started, saying that he's an Ish Zaken, but really everyone here who is online now, including Sal, who is the Zgan Ha'edah here, doesn't matter if you're 99 or if you're 10 years old, David HaMelech is with it. He's with it so much that he succeeds very well to take over and give the milucha to Shlomo HaMelech. And that's wonderful news for Am Yisrael, because what would have happened to us if Adoniyahu was king, right? What would have happened to us? Think of, in politics, what would happen if Mr. X would have been prime minister or Mr. Y would have been, who knows? So we were told from the get-go that Adoniyahu is bad news. And we're going to see now how bad he really could have been for Am Yisrael, and how luckily for us, Shlomo was in tune with his emotions, with his ideas, and with his chokhmah. We're going to be introduced to the chokhmah of Shlomo HaMelech to really understand what's really going on behind the scenes. Because, this is our history. And we need to learn our history. We need to know our history, because we can learn a lot from these great minds, great people. But even when it comes to great people, everyone, no one's perfect. And we're going to see here that everyone is not perfect. And we'll see how Shlomo HaMelech, Chacham Mikol Adam, sometimes isn't the smartest and sometimes makes mistakes, and sometimes lets the emotions get in the way. So we're going to start from perek bet, from Melachim bet, perek bet. I'm going to read like we always do, and we're going to get right into it. But in your minds, think of a movie, literally. Think of everything that's going on. If a screenwriter was writing out the parts, sometimes if you watch documentaries or you know how movies are done, it's not just the line and the sentence that is given to the characters and to the different personalities, but they're also told, be happy, be sad, cry, startled, show that you're emotional, etc. So try to think what's going on behind the scenes with these individuals. They're human beings, and that's what we were trying to look at. Who are the human beings behind these characters? So, perek bet, Pasuk Aleph, I'm going to jump right in. Vayikrevu yemei David lamut, vayetzav Shlomo bno lemor. So this is really the beginning, it's the end of David HaMelech. We'll call him KD for short. KD is about to pass away, and he wants to give over his will, his tzava'ah, to his son Shlomo, who is taking over. Now note, you know this from Sefer Shmuel and from Melachim Aleph, perek Aleph, that David HaMelech's entire offspring is going to continue the lineage, his melucha of Zera David. So I'm continuing. Pasuk bet. Anochi olech bederech kol haaretz v'chazakta v'hayita leish. I'm passing away. And it's teva, it's the natural way of things. So you have to be strong. You need to either, like Sylvia mentioned before, whether he's a child now, Shlomo, and he needs to man up, he needs to grow up, he needs to become the king, ve'ayita le'ish, or we all know, b'makom she'en anashim, heye ish. What does that mean? It means that it's so important for David to leave this world knowing that Eretz Yisrael, Medinat Eretz Yisrael, is in good hands, in the hands of his son Shlomo, and not in the hands of Adoniyahu, and that's important to note. So, Pasuk Gimel, let's continue. Veshamarta et mishmeret Adonai Elohecha, lalechet bidrachav, lishmor chukotav umitzvotav, umishpotav ve'edvotav, kakatuv betorat Moshe, leman taskil et kol asher ta'aseh, ve'et kol asher tifne sham. If I didn't know I was reading Melachim I, perek bet, I'll think that I'm reading Sefer Dvarim. I'll think that I'm reading Moshe Rabbeinu's Neum, his great speech, telling Am Yisrael, telling Yehoshua ben Nun, when you go into Eretz Yisrael, when you enter, make sure that you follow Torah and mitzvot, chukim umishpatim, and he even says, kakatu betorat Moshe. So, in a way, David HaMelech is looking back at his life. He's a grandfather by now. And he wants to make sure that his son, Shlomo, does what he's supposed to do as a melech shel kol Am Yisrael, but even more so, he wants to ensure that Shlomo follows Torah and mitzvot. I mean, that's what a melech is for. A melech is very, very important because David remembers the days when Shmuel Hanavi didn't even want a melech because there was a Navi in town. We had Yehoshua, we had all the Shoftim, we had Eli, we had Shmuel. Why do we need a melech? Shaul didn't succeed as a king. And David, we saw how difficult it was for him. Personally, and also as a king. It wasn't easy. Constant wars, constant battles. He's tired. And he wants Shlomo, his son, his smart son, we'll see very soon, to know, follow Torah and mitzvot, because if you do, you will succeed. That is what David is telling Shlomo. The survival of Shlomo HaMelech's reign depends on the obedience to Hashem. Now, for that to happen, now we get to the nitty-gritty stuff. We really, really do. It's not going to be easy for Shlomo because, as you saw in the introduction when I shared my screen, we're talking about murder very, very soon, manipulation, and putting things in order. Because though David HaMelech had a great kingdom, inside his kingdom, when it comes to people always fight for power. They have a yetzer hara. They want things. They're not willing to give things up. And they will do anything for that. And this is where it starts getting very, very interesting, scary, tragic, and at the same time, we're going to ponder how could Shlomo HaMelech do what he's about to do. So let's continue. Pasuk Daled. Why does David want Shlomo to follow everything? Leman yakim Adonai et divaro, asher diber alai lemor, im yishmeru banecha et darkam, ללכת לפניי באמת בכל לבבם ובכל נפשם, לאמור לא יכרת לך איש מעל כיסא ישראל. The word leman is the reason. Why is David HaMelech telling Shlomo, you must follow the word of Hashem? So instead of having a simple answer saying, because that's the right thing to do, right? Or because I said so, talking about a father talking to his son, he says, in order to ensure that your kingdom lasts forever, to ensure that me, David HaMelech, my tzeitzayim, will continue forever. Or we can say it's just a matter of speech. But either way, we see some ego definitely exists here. Why? Why do we need ego? Well, because we know how difficult it was for David to get this far. Those who learned Shmuel Bet with me, and those who know Shmuel Bet from just knowing Shmuel Bet and Shmuel Aleph, know how difficult it was for David to get to where he is. He's not going to give it up. He doesn't want Shlomo to give it up. He doesn't want Shlomo to make a mistake that Shaul made before him and have everything thrown out the window. So he wants to ensure that he follows Torah and mitzvot. Let's continue. Pasuk Hey. V'gam ata yadata. Now it starts getting very interesting, and not everyone is going to agree with what's going on here. V'gam ata yadata. Pasuk Hey. Et asher asa li Yoav ben Tzeruya, asher asa li shnei sarei tzivot Yisrael, le'avner ben ner, ule'amasa ben yeter, vayahargem, vayasem dmei milchama beshalom. That's important. Milchama beshalom, loosely translated, war and peace. Vayiten dmei milchama b'chagorato, asher b'motnav, u'bena'alo asher b'raglav. Now it's a very long pasuk, but let's explain what's happening here. Back in Shmuel Bet, when David HaMelech's, one of his older sons, Avshalom wanted to take away the throne from his father. Terrible. It was a terrible scene that we read, and it was very difficult for many, many reasons. So what happened there was Avshalom decided to leave Yerushalayim and anoint himself to be king, and he waged war against his father. A son wages war against a father. It's very hard to imagine, but it happened right here in Shmuel Bet. So what happens? David HaMelech knows, KD knows that he needs to go out and try to knock some sense into Avshalom. But Avshalom is waging war, so there's going to be war. There will be casualties. So David tells his chief of staff, his general Yoav, to go out to fight, but to spare Avshalom. Do not kill Avshalom. David made Yoav promise. But even worse, what happened was over there is that with Avshalom, David HaMelech didn't even have the courage himself to go out and fight, because how can he fight against his son? So he sends out Yoav. But Yoav, what does he do? We all know the story. He kills Avshalom. He murders Avshalom. Now there in Shmuel Bet, we mentioned that David should punish, we asked the question, should he punish Yoav or not? I mean, Sachakol, at the end of the day, it was war. Is all fair in war? Nothing is ever fair in war. But when you're protecting yourself, defending yourself, you know there will be casualties. And even though David made Yoav swear that he will not kill Avshalom, Yoav thought that by killing Avshalom, he's going to save the day. And he really did at the end. But he wasn't very happy with what he had done. So therefore, what David did, because of that, in order to create a situation of peace amongst Am Yisrael after the war was subsided, what he did is he took Amasa. Amasa was Avshalom's general. Amasa was also David HaMelech's nephew. And he said, Yoav, I don't want you to be my chief of staff anymore. Yoav, you can't. You defied me. I made you swear not to touch my son Avshalom, and you killed him. So without getting into the nitty-gritty of why it was the right thing to do or not, he decided to take Yoav and demote him and promote Amasa, who was the general of Avshalom. Yoav didn't like that. Not at all. So what does Yoav do? Yoav goes out. After David sends Amasa out on a mission, Yoav goes ahead and he murders Amasa. Why? Why does he murder Amasa? Well, one would say because he thought that Amasa was still fighting for Avshalom's side. The other side would say because of envy, kin'ah. What does a guy do out of jealousy? Kin'ah. So he murders Amasa. But it wasn't war. It wasn't during war that he murders Amasa. He kills him in cold blood and murders him. That's number one. And those who remember, way back in Shmuel, when Shaul HaMelech dies, murdered, killed, right, by the other side, by the Plishtim, what happens is that Avner wants to become king after Shaul. Now there's Ishboshet involved also. We're not going to get too much into that history. But long story short, David HaMelech decides to make a treaty, a peace treaty with Avner. And while he's making that treaty, while he's creating a connection with Avner. What does Yoav do? Yoav goes and bam, kills Avner too, in cold blood, while peace process was happening between David HaMelech and Avner. So we see from here that Yoav killed two people, Amasa and Avner, two people that David did not want. And we saw also there back in Shmuel how it hurt David, because many, many people assumed that David was the one who gave the order to kill Avner, because he was maybe jealous of Avner, maybe he was scared of Avner. Long story short, he knew then that Yoav is no good. On the other hand, he needed Yoav, because Yoav was a great warrior. He was a great general. He needed Yoav to fight his wars against the Plishtim and others. So he didn't want to get rid of Yoav. Yoav is also a nephew of his as well. So what is he going to do? So in the back of his mind, he's mentioned many times that all Bnei Tzeruya are no good. So now he tells Avner, now he tells his son Shlomo, you must get rid of Yoav. If he hangs around, it's not going to go good for you. So that's the first thing that we see that he says here to Shlomo. Amazing. He just finished saying, follow Hashem, follow the Torah. And now he's saying, take Yoav out. How does that go hand in hand? I mean, what about tshuva? What about inviting Yoav for a debate, for a diyun, for a dayanut, for something? That's mind-boggling. We just finished reading, right? We just finished reading, Leman yakim Hashem dvaro. And then he says, Dmei milchama b'shalom. So the only thing I could come up with is what the psukim say. The psukim say very, very clearly, milchama b'shalom, that when Yoav kills in cold blood, not during war, he deserves to die. Now, interesting, Avshalom is not mentioned here. Why is Avshalom not mentioned? Because Avshalom was in time of war. Avshalom was fighting David. So though Yoav is supposed to keep Avshalom alive, it was still during war. So David doesn't blame Yoav at this point for killing Avshalom, but he does blame Yoav for murdering Amasa and Avner ben Ner. And now he's telling Shlomo, you know what he did, and you cannot let him live. Pasuk Vav, ve'asita kechochmatecha. Aha. So we know from get-go that Shlomo is a smart kid. Meaning even David recognized already now that Shlomo is very, very smart. Ve'asita kechochmatecha. Use your brain. How to get rid of him? Just make sure, the second part of Pasuk Vav, Velo tored seivato beshalom sheol. Make sure he doesn't reach Seva. Make sure he doesn't reach Me'avesru. Make sure that his years are shortened. He cannot stay around. You don't know what's going to happen if he's around. Put your house into order. If he's around, you don't have control over anything, because you have this guy who's very popular, very strong. So therefore you have to get rid of him. That's the first part of David HaMelech's will after he tells him, keep the Torah. Pasuk Zayin. On the other hand, the flip side, he says, Velivnei barzilai hagiladi ta'aseh chesed ve'ayu be'ochlei shulchanecha ki chen karvu elai bevochi mipnei Avshalom achicha. During the war against Avshalom, I was running away. I didn't want to be around because after all, I can't fight my son. So I preferred to evacuate Yerushalayim. And as I was evacuating, I had to do it so quickly, I couldn't even take food and water with me. So thank God the Barzilayim were there. They gave me food. They saved me. Therefore, I want you to give chesed to Bnei Barzilai and ensure that they eat on your table, which is a status. Make sure they have a good that they have a statue. Make sure that they have food. Make sure that they have parnasa, because I owe them. So on the one hand, he tells them, take out Yoav. On the other hand, he says, do chesed with Barzilai Hagiladi. But that's not all. Pasuk Chet, another part of his will. V'hinei imecha Shim'i ben Gera ben hayemini mi bachurim. There was another guy. His name was Shimi ben Gera. Now, those who remember, when David HaMelech was running away, he was running away in the area of Binyamin, a little bit north of Yerushalayim. And that's where he spotted Shimi. Shimi ben Gera was a tzetzah, part of the Shaul family. And of course, there's animosity between the two of Mishpachat Shaul, Binyamin against David, Yehuda, who basically took over the Melucha. And at that time, Shimi was cursing out David, who was already anointed to be king. That is a mored b'malchut. And as a mored b'malchut, he deserves to die. But at that time, David HaMelech swore to Shimi, I will not touch you. How can David HaMelech get out of that oath? Because now he's telling him, the second half of Pasuk Chet, V'hu yarad likrati hayarden, at that time, Vayishava lo ba'Adonai lemor ima mitecha becharev, I promise that I will not kill him. But now, ve'ata, al tenakeu ki ish chacham ata. You have the ability to take him out. V'yadata et asher ta'aseh lo. Use your brains to do it properly. V'horadeta et sevato bedam she'ol. I want you to ensure that he does not stay alive. Bedam she'ol. It's a play on words that goes back to Shaul, to the time of Shmuel. Amazing. This is what David HaMelech is leaving his son. Number one, take out Yoav, because he deserves to die. I couldn't do it, but you can. Number two, chesed with Barzilai Giladi, because they did good for me. Number three, take out Shimi ben Gera. Vengeance. He wants Shlomo to avenge David HaMelech's, what David couldn't do in his lifetime. Now, why could David not do it in his lifetime? So, according to historians, once David HaMelech passes away, then his oath doesn't have any merit anymore. Therefore, Shlomo is allowed to go ahead and take Shimi ben Gera. Now, Shimi was a mored b'malchut. Anybody who curses a king deserves mitah by the king. So that's okay. But that's mind-boggling if you think about it. These are the four things that David is making sure that Shlomo follows. Torah mitzvot, taking out Yoav, remember that, it's important. Taking care of Barzilai Giladi and his family, and taking out Shimi ben Gera. Let's continue. Vayishkav David emavotav, vayikaver be'ir David. He passes away, he's 70 years old. We know that from the Midrash, we know that from here as well, because we all have to add up the numbers. I'm not going to do that here, but we add up all the numbers. He's really 70 years old. And he's buried in Ir David. Just from an archaeological point of view, Ir David, where he is buried, is not where we have Kever David today. All those who go up to Shar Tzion, when you're walking up to Shar Tzion, on the right-hand side, literally the opposite side of Shar Tzion, you'll see a big shellet, that says, Kever David. It's not Kever David. That was really an old synagogue from Yimei HaBenaim, an old synagogue from about 800, 900 years ago. It's not where David HaMelech is buried at all, even though it says Kever David. It used to be a Beit Knesset. Kever David HaMelech is where they're excavating by Ir David, a little more south that area. We have not found where he is buried, but we know from here he was buried in Ir David. That's the end of a great era. HaMelech David passes away. Bring out the violins, and we need to move to a new phase in Jewish history. Up until now, we had Nevi'im, we had Shoftim before that, we had Nevi'im, we had an unsuccessful king called Shaul, who had everything going from him, but he didn't succeed. And then we had David HaMelech, where he is an Eved Hashem, but he himself had struggles, both personally and also publicly, many, many struggles. He wanted to build the Beit HaMikdash, and God said, you can't, your hands are full of blood, according to one opinion. But now we're moving into a brand new era, an era of Shlomo HaMelech. hachacham mikol adam. And Shlomo, David mentions his brilliance twice. I know that you're smart, use your intelligence, which means he's an intelligent person. He has smarts. But why is David saying constantly, bechochmatecha? Why does he keep on saying, use your head? Vasita kechochmatecha. The reason I think is because David was very, very emotional. We know that from many different parts of Shmuel Bet. But also, who's the guy who wrote most of Tehillim? Who's the guy in charge of our tefillot, who knows how to touch the depths of our emotion? It's David HaMelech. That emotion, though, is good at times. For a king, sometimes it's not very good. Look what David did because of that extra emotion that he had. Those yitzarim that come out. We know what he did. He a couple of sins that were terrible. The biggest one is Bathsheba and other things that he had done. And look at his family with Amnon and Avshalom. So therefore, it's important for David to tell Shlomo, I need you as a king to start using your cup. Use your brain. That is what a king needs to do. Leave your emotion out of it at times. And we're going to see throughout the beginning of Shlomo HaMelech's reign as a king, he tries to use his brain more than his emotion. And we'll see where that takes him. With David HaMelech, you can hear his emotion. You can hear the struggles that he goes through. With Shlomo, we're going to hear other types of struggle that comes from having too much seichel, and how sometimes having too much seichel, too much intelligence, also doesn't always lead. So we see here also that besides our Torah giving us the Orach Chaim, giving us what we should and should not do, giving us some type of historical event, it's also a book of messages of how to become a leader. What type of leader are we looking for? One who is totally emotional, one is totally intellectual. We need a little bit of both. So let's try it this way first. So let's start a brand new era, Pasuk Yud Aleph. והימים אשר מלך דוד על ישראל 40 שנה, בחברון מלך 7 שנים, ובירושלים מלך 33 שנים. ושלמה ישב על כיסא דוד אביו, ותיכון מלכותו מאוד. We start out, everything is wonderful. ותיכון מלכותו מאוד. He has everything going for him. He had the blessing of the king. He has the intelligence. He was given the melucha properly. But the first thing that happens is trouble. Trouble for Shlomo HaMelech. Pasuk Yud Gimel, 13. Vayavo Adoniah ben Chagit el bat Sheva em Shlomo vatomer Hashalom boecha yomer shalom. Adoniyahu, and if you recall, Adoniyahu was the brother that tried to become king under the nose of his father. Now he's going to Shlomo HaMelech's mother, Bathsheba. Why is he going to Shlomo HaMelech's mother? What is he trying to succeed at? Pasuk Yudalet, Vayomer davar li elecha. I have something I want to say. Vatomer daber, okay, let's hear what you have to say. Vayomer, Adoniyahu speaks up and says to Bathsheba, At yadat, כי לי הייתה המלוכה, ועלי שמו כל ישראל פניהם למלוך. You know. I mean, come on. I'm the next in kin. It's Amnon, Avshalom, then me. I was supposed to be king. Not only was I supposed to be king, but everybody wanted me to be king. Do you remember all that, what happened in the Kidron there? But it didn't work out for me. Why? ותיסוב המלוכה, ותהי לאחי. Ki me Adonai hayta lo. But it didn't work out. I deserved to be king. I wanted to be king. I had everything going for me. Everybody else wanted to be the king. Shlomo didn't even want to be king. But what can I do? Hashem wanted him to be king. Basically, he is trying to manipulate the mother by guilting her, saying, look, I deserved it. I'm a misken. I'm a true misken. I didn't deserve this. I'm supposed to be king. I mean, that's how it works. The oldest gets to be king. Well, what can I do? I believe in Hashem, Adoniyahu says. That's what he's hinting to Bathsheba. So therefore, you have to understand that what I'm about to ask for you is something very small, just to give me something. Ve'ata she'ela achat. One small little question, bakasha, request I have from you. Anochi shoel meitach. Pasuk tet zayin. Al tashivi panai. Please, I'm begging. Please don't turn away from me. Give me what I need. Your help. I can't go to Shlomo. I need your help. Vatomer elav daber. He succeeds in penetrating her heart, and she says, "Okay, well, I'll try to help you out. What can I possibly do for you? I will do. I understand I understand your situation. You're a misken. You're a poor boy. All you wanted to do is become king. You're the oldest. You deserve it. But God wanted my son. Okay, let me see what I can do to help you out." What does Adoniyahu want? Riches? No. A palace? No. What does he want? Something so small. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Vayomer, he says, Imrina lishlomo hamelech. Please, just tell your son Shlomo, ki lo yashiv et panai, because he's not gonna, you're his mother. Of course he's gonna listen to you. You're a special mother. You're really, really special. Please ask him, ve'iten li et avishag hashunamit leisha. All I want, not riches, all I want is avishag hashunamit. That's all I want, something so simple. Vatomer Bathsheba, tough, okay, yeah, not a big deal. Come on, what was Bathsheba thinking? Oh my God, he's going to want a part in the palace. He's going to want half. He's going to want to become king after Shlomo. What is he going to be? He just wants a girl, and not just a regular girl, like concubine, somebody who was a mesharetet, not even a Jew. Okay, shtuyot. If that's all he needs, great. If that's going to remove him a little bit from the pressure that Shlomo was feeling, okay. Anochi adaber alecha el hamelech. Now, notice the words in Hebrew. Anochi adaber alecha el hamelech. It doesn't say Anochi edaber el hamelech or Anochi yeshlicha. I will talk about you to the king. Alecha. I will talk about you. Meaning the manipulation that's going on here. Adoniyahu succeeds in guilting Bathsheba because of everything that happened there. And now Bathsheba is going to go to her son and tell his son what? Oh, poor boy, poor Adoniyahu, your older brother. He wanted to be king. He was supposed to be king, but Hashem wanted you to be king. You need to have Rahmanus on him. You need to have Rahmanus. Pasuk Yutet. Vatavo Bathsheba el hamelech Shlomo ledaber lo al Adoniyahu. She comes to talk to him about Adoniyahu. Vayakom hamelech likrata, vayishtachu la, vayeshev al kis'o. Yasem kiseh le'em hamelech. He draws out a chair. Come, please sit down next to me, my dear mother. Anything you ask, I would love to do. Vateshev li'imino. And she sits on the right-hand side, showing how much kavod, how much respect Shlomo has for his dear beloved mother. Sukaf. Vatomer sheila achat ktana anochi shoelet meitach. I have one small question, some request that I have. I have a request. Please, I'm your dear mother. Al tashev et panai. Please don't. Make sure that you hear me and you receive and you listen. It's important. Yomer la melech shali mi. My dear mother, please ask away. Ki lo ashiv et panaich. I won't look away. I'll grant you your request. You're my mom. Vatomer yutan et avishag hashunamit la'adoniyahu achicha leisha. All he wants is this woman. I don't know. He likes her how she looks. He wants to marry her. He wants to be with her. How should Shlomo HaMelech respond? How would you respond? Would you say, sure, no problem. It's just a girl. Big deal. Why not? You know what? If I do something good for Adoniyahu, it shows trust. If I do something good for Adoniyahu, now don't forget what Shlomo HaMelech said to Adoniyahu, back in Shmuel, in Perek Aleph, when Adoniyahu was running for his life and he clinged on to the Mizbeach. Remember that? And Shlomo gave him a chanina. He said, just go home. Don't make any problems. Promise me that you won't do anything, any maneuvers to try to take the throne away from me. So Bathsheba doesn't see any harm with what's going on here. She doesn't see any problem. All he wants is a girl. That's all he wants. That's not what Shlomo sees. Shlomo says, wait a minute. What did he ask you? Wait, am I hearing correctly? All he wants is this Shunamit girl? Are you kidding me? Pasuk kafale, Vatomer, Yutan et Avishaga Shunamit la'Adoniyahu achicha l'isha, Vayan HaMelech, Shlomo, Vayomer limo, Velama at shoelet? Why are you asking et Avishaga Shunamit la'Adoniyahu? V'shali lo melucha. Maybe you should give him my melucha. You're asking him for this girl? You don't realize, Mom. You don't realize what you're asking for. Ki hu achi agadol. He's my older brother. He thinks he still deserves the melucha. Velo ule Evyatar HaKohen ule Yoav ben Tzeruya. He's got everybody in his pocket. And now he has you in his pocket. And now he wants Avishaga Shunamit. Why would he want Avishaga Shunamit? Well, we know why he wants Avishaga Shunamit. Anybody know why he wants Avishaga Shunamit? Well, who is Adoniyahu? He's the brother of Avner. He's the brother of Avshalom. I want to share my screen for a second.
If he is the one who gets her, it's like Mordechai riding the king's horse. If you get the concubine of the king, that means you are at a high level and also king-like or in that category.
Correct. But let me show you what Shlomo, he's Chacham. Now remember, we're talking about a guy who's working with intelligence now. He's not too emotional. He's saying, wait a minute. Adoniyahu wants Avishaga Shunamit. Let me remind you all what happened with Avshalom. Whoops. So on the left-hand side, you can see Avshalom here. Let me just remove this here. Oops. Let me just move here. I can't see. Okay, it's on. All right. So I can't move my. Hold on.
Can you make the print just one little bit smaller because I'm missing everything on the right and the picture of Adoniyahu?
I can't. I can't change it. So I'll send it to you. So anyway, Avshalom, if you look on the left, Avshalom and Adoniyahu, who are brothers, were portrayed both as very handsome, charismatic. With Avshalom, it says, Ish Yafeh Me'od, that's in Shmuel Bet, and we just saw in Shmuel, in Melachim Aleph, perek Aleph, Tov Toar Me'od. So they have a connection already, not just as being brothers and not just being older than Shlomo, who deserve, according to history, the way things work, they're also very similar in the sense that they're also very much well-liked. Also, if you remember, those who remember Avshalom, he went out parading onto the streets, very confident, trying to take away the Melucha from David HaMelech. We saw that happen also in Perek Aleph and Melachim. Parading on the streets, very confident in Kidron Valley, trying to become king. Also, Avshalom tried actively to rule while King David was still alive. And also, Adoniyahu tried actively to rule while HaMelech David was alive. But here's the last part. One of the things that Avshalom did in order to prove to everybody that he's worthy not only of being king, but taking over David HaMelech's reign, is by sleeping right in front of Am Yisrael with Pilagshay David Aviv. And that's what he did. He went out right by Sha'arei Yerushalayim into the Ohel, and he took the concubine, he took the Pilagshay David, because that was a symbol of power. if a son sleeps with the pilagshot, that shows something. So when Adoniyahu sees that he failed taking over the throne while David was alive, well, now David is dead. Now he's dead, and he still has Yoav on his side. Now we could understand why it was so important for David to tell Shlomo, you got to take Yoav out. Because David was seeing properly that if you don't take Yoav out, Adoniyahu is going to pull a fast one. And that's why he wants Avishag HaShunamit. He wants Avishag HaShunamit to show all of those people that were on his side, I still have all the power. I'm taking the Melech's Pilagshim. It shows that Shlomo is weak. If any person could take away a Pilegesh of a king, that means he's a weak king. He can't control his own house. Bathsheba didn't understand that. Bathsheba's the mother. She's thinking about her son. She's not thinking about the rules of how things work in the order of things. She's thinking totally about her son. But Shlomo, his cup's in mode of taking care of business. And what he needs to take care of is what's really going on with Adoniyahu. So, maybe Shlomo made a mistake by giving the Chanina to Adoniyahu way back in Perek Aleph and telling him, go home, instead of taking him out then and there, because once Adoniyahu has his teeth wanting to take away the kingdom, nothing Shlomo can do about it. And that's how we're going to continue here. Pasuk Kaf Gimel. וישבע מלך שלמה באדוני לאמור, כה יעשה לי אלוהים וכה יוסיף, כי בנפשו דיבר אדוניהו את הדבר הזה. That's it. This was the last straw. He's trying to take away the melucha, but not taking it away from me. From HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We just mentioned a minute ago that even Adoniyahu said it's from Hashem. Everybody knew it's from Hashem. So therefore, now he's considered a mored b'malchut. Now he deserves to die. Pasuk Kaf Dalet, ve'ata chai Adonai asher ichinani, v'yoshiveni al kisei David avi, v'asher asa li bayit, ka'asher diber, ki hayom yumat Adoniyahu. I must take Adoniyahu out. Now this is before he fulfills all of the other things that David wanted. David said, first take out Yoav, Barzilai Giladi, and then take out Shimi. But he's saying to himself, but I can't, because I have my other brother who's alive, who's trying to take away my throne. I got to first take care of him. Vayishlach HaMelech Shlomo beyad Benayahu ben Yehoyada, that's Pasuk Afhei, Vayifga bo vayamot. Swiftly, quickly, mored b'malchut, trying to take away the throne of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Down here, he kills Adoniyahu immediately. Now, once he does that, immediately he goes out to do more. See, this is the thing. Once you start, it's very difficult to stop because you become paranoid. The second you start just trying to control your own house, you become paranoid. You think everybody's out to get you, right? Something so simple. Now, it could be that all Adoniyahu wanted was Avishag HaShunamit. Now, why am I saying it could be? Because if you remember, when we talked about this in Perek Aleph, I mentioned that Avishag HaShunamit was a plan devised by Adoniyahu from the get-go, trying to inject Avishag HaShunamit in the palace to try to get David HaMelech, to care about, his own personal needs and not think too much about the throne while Adoniyahu was out there trying to take over. It didn't work. But maybe Adoniyahu really just wanted Avishag HaShunamit. Maybe all he wanted was his girl back. Or maybe he promised Avishag HaShunamit that if it doesn't work out, I'll take you out of the palace. Or it could be that really he was trying to take over Shlomo HaMelech's throne. We don't know the real ins and outs because we weren't there, but we do know the response. Shlomo HaMelech becomes the kind of king that is going to try to, no matter what, take care of his own business, and if it means killing, it means killing. What happened to the Shlomo from Perek Aleph that gave a Chanina to Adoniyahu? So he takes out Adoniyahu vayamot. And if he's already doing that, let's continue. Pasuk Avav. He's on a roll. Ule Eviatar Kohen. You remember, Eviatar Kohen was one of the Kohanim that was pro Adoniyahu. Amar HaMelech Anatot lech al sadecha ki ish mavet ata. You too. You're probably going to devise a plan against me too. Ata ubayom hazeh lo amitecha. I'm not going to kill you because you're a Kohen. Ki nasata et aron Adonai Elohim lifnei David avi. You were loyal to my father for a long time. And you're a Kohen, and you touched the ark, the Aron HaKodesh. V'chi anita b'chol asher itana ami. You had allegiance to my father, so I'm not going to kill you. But I don't want you around. Vayigare Shlomo pasuk Kaf Zayin et Evyatar miyot kohen laAdonai lemale dvar Adonai asher diber al beit Eli b'Shilo. We said that Shlomo's smart. Now, he can't just do this without we're talking about democracy. Yes, we're on a theocracy here, but Torah worked with the democracy. He can't just demote people like that. He has to have a reason. So he gets rid of Adoniyahu because he's a mored b'malchut. How does he get rid of Evyatar? He reminds everybody he is a tzetzah of Eli HaKohen. Back in Shmuel Aleph, Hashem promises to Eli, because of the terrible hanhaga that he had, Lo ata velo beitcha yamshichu liot li lekohanim. That's how Shlomo uses his intellect to say, I need to get rid of Evyatar HaKohen. He can no longer be a Kohen. He megarish him and gets him out. He's on a roll. Now he gets to succeed in fulfilling the will of his father David. Pasuk Kafchet. והשמועה באה עד יואב, כי יואב נטע אחרי אדוניהו, ואחרי אבשלום לא נטע. וינוס יואב אל אוהל אדוני, ויחזק בקרנות המזבח. We could hear the rage coming out of Shlomo HaMelech's palace. We can hear the uproar, taking out Adoniyahu, taking out Evyatar HaKohen. So Yoav is saying, oh my God, I'm next. I'm next because I sided with Adoniyahu. I was in collision with Evyatar. Shlomo is after my head. So what does he do? You remember what Adoniyahu did in the first time. He runs to the Mizbeach. Why? Do you remember why? What is the Mizbeach? I want to share my screen again. The Mizbeach was similar to a Ir Miklat. If somebody did something by accident, b'shogeg, this is important, b'shogeg, by accident, they can run to an Ir Miklat, it's a tzivui, and nobody can touch him. So you run to an Ir Miklat, and once you're there, you can see here, the Rotfim, the Goel Adam, is not allowed to go in to enter. So this person here, who, I guess, by shogeg, killed somebody, is saved. So basically, an Ir Miklat, which is over here on the right-hand side of the screen, is equal to somebody who goes to the Mizbeach. And if you go to the Mizbeach, you're saved. That's what Adoniyahu did. And that's what Yoav is trying to do. He's trying to go to the Mizbeach and save himself because he knows he's next in line. So let's continue to read. Pasuk Kaftet. The rage is coming out of the palace. Vayugad lamelech Shlomo. Shlomo says, Kinas Yoav el Ohel Adonai, v'hinei etzel ha-Mizbeach. וישלח שלמה את בניהו בן יהוידע לאמור לך פגע בו. He's not allowed to be saved. He's not allowed to enter an Ir Miklat. Why? Because he is a rotzeach, not b'shogeg, b'mezid. He killed Avner and he killed Amasa in cold blood. There is no such thing as an Ir Miklat for him. ויבוא, פסוק למד, ויבוא בניהו אל אוהל אדוני, ויאמר אליו, כה אמר המלך, צא. Yomer lo ki po amut. Now does not want to kill Yoav in Beit Hashem. So he says to him, you must leave. Yoav is not stupid. Yoav says, okay, I want to be right here. You want to kill me? At the altar. If Evyatar doesn't know what to do, what do I do? Vayashev B'nayahu et hamelech davar lemor ki diber Yoav v'cho anani. I don't know what to do. He's still clinging on to the Mizbeach. Pasuk lamed alech vayomer lo hamelech aseh ka'asher diber u'pga bo u'kvarto. He deserves death. Also, That's what I promised my father. And also, he's a mered, and he's a murderer. And also, I know that I'm not safe with him here. Va'asirota dmei chinam asher shafach Yoav me'alai u'me'al beitav. He must say these words, chinam, in order to convince all the around that it's not a vendetta. It's not a nekama. It's not because he's scared of Yoav, but he's just clearing out the house, putting things in order to ensure a din tzedek. He is using his intellect, he's using Torah mitzvot like his father promised. And now we can understand this plan. David said, use the Torah mitzvot to be on your side because you'll never go wrong. Pasuk Lamed Bet. והשיב אדוני את דמו על ראשו אשר פגע בשני אנשים צדיקים וטובים. Avner was not a tzaddik. And neither was Amasa a tzaddik, but they were killed and murdered. ויהרגם בחרב, ואבי דוד לא ידע. He's convincing everybody around that it wasn't coming from David. It wasn't murder. It wasn't sent by David HaMelech. So don't confuse Uriah Hitti with what's going on here. No, Yoav ran out by himself to kill and murder these two people during times of peace. את אבנר בן נר שר צבא ישראל ואת אמסה בן יתר שר צבא יהודה. Why is he saying this out loud? Because he doesn't want to be perceived as the king who's cleaning out house because he's afraid. He wants people to realize who he is. He is a smart king. He is a king that is following Torah mitzvot. He is a king that is doing what is needed leman am Yisrael, and not because he's scared. But beinenu, of course he's scared. Sylvia, you said, how old is he? He must not be very old because he's scared. He knows people are out to get him. He knows that he's the younger son. He knows that Yoav is very strong. But he also has his father's protection with the will, and also that he is chayav mita. Pasuk Lamed Gimel, Veshavu dmeihem berosh Yoav uberosh zaro leolam uledavid ulezaro uleveito ulekiso yeshalom ad olam me'im Adonai. Vayal Benayahu ben Yehoyada, Pasuk Lamed Daled, Vayifga bo vayemiteu, and they kill Yoav. But that's not how the pasuk ends. The pasuk ends, Vayikaver beveito bamidbar. Shlomo HaMelech realizes that Yoav was a very, very important instrument in his father's melucha. So even though he kills him because he was a murderer, because he did something wrong, he still deserves a kvura properly beveito. And why do we know this? Because anytime somebody who is killed because he's a mored b'malchut, or he did something wrong, his gufa, his body is mushlach le'of hashamayim. But here, Shlomo HaMelech makes sure that he's brought to kvura, proper burial. Pasuk Lamed Hey, ויתן המלך את בניהו בן יהוידע תחתיו על הצבא, ואת צדוק הכהן נתן המלך תחת אביתר. I want you to know that this is a very, very tragic moment. Yoav was very important to Am Yisrael. Yoav was a guy who protected David HaMelech many, many times. We see how difficult it is in this period of time, when there's a king that wants to be king, he's afraid of his brother, he's afraid of the previous general, his father is telling him to take out these people, his mother is telling him just give the woman to your brother Adoniyahu. We see Evyatar Kohen. We're going to see next week that it's not over here. We have so many other people. We have Shimi Gerah. Also, what happened to Barzilai Giladi? It doesn't say anywhere that he's trying to do good with them. This is a lot for a king to take. This is not an easy way to start a kingdom properly. Starting out with killing, starting out with taking out people that are a threat to you. This is not easy. Shlomo HaMelech's kingdom, even though we always say Shlomo HaMelech had the greatest era in the period of time, but look how it starts. It doesn't start easy for him. It starts very, very hard. And I think, in my opinion, it stains Shlomo HaMelech. It's very hard for a king to be a successful king when you start out with killing, when you start out with taking out people. Yoav, kicking out a Kohen, taking out Adoniyahu, and we'll see later on next week, he's going to take out Shimei as well. How could a guy be a good king when that's the first thing that he does? Now, it could be that it's all L'Shem Shamayim, and it could be that it's the right thing to do, and it could be that this is what has to be done. Yet you can't escape what's going on in Shlomo's mind. First thing he does, he doesn't build Beit HaMikdash. You know, when we were much younger, we always thought, Melech Shlomo, what a wonderful king. He built Beit HaMikdash. He had everything going for me. He sinned towards the end. But that's not what's going on here. He's starting out his first couple of years killing, taking people out. It doesn't end here because something is going to happen to Shlomo Melech's mind. Something's going to happen to his emotion. Something's going to happen to him, this child who becomes an adult, this adult who becomes the king of Am Yisrael, who conquers so much, who had a reign beyond anything that we've ever seen before, and how we aspire to go back to this kind of kingdom doesn't start off very well. So next week, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to go into what happens to Shimei ben Gera, what happened to his promise to Barzilai Giladi and his family. And then once we start perek Gimel, something else happens. It's a little bit difficult to end shir this way, but that's life. Tov, Shavua Tov to everyone.
Thank you so much. Sensational. Thank you.